Did it. In the last Rox Talks, I talked about how they were going to do what the sign says is a prescribed burn. They dug trenches. This is more of a path, but there were areas where they dug around so that they wouldn't burn a certain portion of it. There's Jackson. He's happy they didn't burn that part. And they went ahead and burned the undergrowth as far as the eye could see within that trench. But the really cool thing for me is I was looking at it this morning and I saw that the tops of the trees are not burned, but the bottoms are, and all the undergrowth is gone. And I thought about that as a metaphor for our spiritual life. Well, it's kind of basically what I talked about last time, is that in our hearts, just as a natural course of life and being a human, we get a lot of undergrowth. We get a lot of things that have died and fallen off and just kind of laying around in our hearts. And it makes navigating pretty difficult. But now, because they burned this area, I could walk through there no problem. But this part over here hasn't been burned. So it's kind of hard to walk through, kind of hard to navigate, and is actually susceptible now to more burning than this part over here, because everything over here is already burned. So it's not going to catch on fire as fast, and then when the new growth comes in, it'll be all fresh and wet and supple, so it won't catch on fire as much. And it won't have any of the dry sticks and that kind of thing to catch on fire and rage out of control. And even if it does, they got this trail here, this demarcation line, that won't let it happen. And so I thought about that for our spiritual life, is that sometimes we have to make a demarcation line, make a plan of action, and decide, hey, I'm going to burn everything within this area that is kind of like the low stuff, the undergrowth, not the tops of the trees, not the stuff that reaches up towards heaven, not the eternal. That's not going to be burned up. But what I need to get rid of is all the dead, all the hurt, all the difficulties that I faced and been burned by. And of course we never get rid of them, but they get rid of, through the process of burning, that kind of process gets rid of the undergrowth in our heart of all that hurt. And then it prevents fires that rage out of control. I have two examples. One is a Christian who is more mature than me, and I were having trouble in our relationship. And she decided that we should get together, and when we could be alone in a quiet place without interruption, and talk about the things that had hurt her about what I had done to her, and things that had hurt me about what she had done to me. And I really didn't want to do it, but I prayed really hard, and I'm sure she did too. And it was a very good time, because we had planned ahead. We're going to talk about these things. We knew the subject matter, because we had had several situations where I lashed out at her, she lashed out at me, but they weren't about that particular situation. It was just, we were tired, or we had let these things build up. And now we were lashing out. So it was just a really good example of this kind of prescribed burn, where we decided we're not going to let the undergrowth of our relationship rage out of control. And what came out of it was a really good time of peace between us, and the high things were left, the tops of the trees. The other example that I have is, the high things, when I say that, I mean like eternal things, our relationship, and actually even our witness to the rest of the world, because we were both Christians, so obviously we're going to want to let those things shine through rather than all the undergrowth of the bad things that are in our relationship. So anyway, that was the metaphor number one, example number one for this metaphor. And the other one was just that for a while there, here's one of these trenches that they dug, and they burned on the other side of it. Right there, you can see they burned this side over here, and they didn't burn this side. So trenches, demarcation lines. Another demarcation line that I drew one time was I just decided no more MTV, no more of those shows where they make fun of celebrities, because I actually thought it was funny. It's like, okay, come on, what can you laugh at, make fun of people, and nobody gets hurt? And I thought, yeah, celebrities. It's not true. They get hurt. They probably go cry because people are talking about them, laughing at them. But anyway, I decided to draw the line and say there's too much swearing. There's too much, sexual references. There's just too much of that. And that's undergrowth. That's low stuff. That's not the tops of the trees. We need to burn that out. So I just decided, no more of that. If I can watch a 30-minute show about that and sit there and laugh, I can read my Bible for 30 minutes. Or I can talk with my kids for 30 minutes. Or I can take an extra 30 minutes of sleep. So anyway, it was just a little example of drawing the line, burning out the undergrowth, and saving yourself from some out-of-control situations. All right, that's all I have for today. Thanks for listening to Rox Talks, and I'll see you next time. Stay in the Word.